That's me. That's me supporting Tottenham. That's what it feels like. You turn up, you watch the game, whether it be on TV or live or whatever. But at the end of it all, you're literally just smashing your head against a frying pan or a brick wall or whatever it might be, because it's just absolutely incredible that we can be going through this period and have absolutely no idea when it's ever going to end. But on the positive, every cloud has a silver lining. Every cloud has a silver lining. The good news is Beyonce no less, has more dates available at the stadium. Come on. You know that's a really good thing. You know, you've got to be happy about that, right? You know, forget about signing a decent player, forget about getting proven players in, forget about winning trophies or even turning up and winning a game. Forget about that. That's not important. What's important is that Beyonce is coming to Tottenham. It's perfect, right? It's perfect. Of course, I am being totally sarcastic about the whole situation. In case there was any doubt whatsoever, I never listened to Beyonce. I couldn't tell you any of her songs. I'm an old man. I have no idea whatsoever. And to be honest with you, I'm not against the stadium being used for stuff other than football if that's going to bring money in and and basically help improve my football team, which is what, first and foremost, is what this is all about. But no, that's not going to happen. We know that's not going to happen. What's going to happen is that money will just go into the coffers of Daniel Levy and his cronies, and they'll make even more money and make it even more reasons not to sell the club and move on. And essentially, we will be stuck in the same old rut that we are currently in. I suspect that the players will now start to come back. A few will drift in here and there, and Ange will then have to start taking out some of the younger players to accommodate these guys that have been injured all this time. And I cannot see that I cannot see the performances are going to improve. And then in a few months' time, whether it be the end of the season or before the end of the season, Ange will leave, Ryan Mason will come in, and we'll start the whole rigmarole again of going around a cycle, trying to find somebody who's prepared to come in and take this team on for 18 months, because then we'll be doing it all again, because that's the cycle that Tottenham Hotspur and Daniel Levy have created. I'm sure you don't want to watch this video. I'm sure this is just negative and annoying for you as much as it is negative and annoying for me to try to put into context how I feel about this whole situation, because I keep saying it, I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss to what to do next. I don't know how and when and if this is going to get any better, because it just feels like we are spiraling further and further into the depths of despair. Football is about entertainment. It's about enjoying yourself. It's about escapism. It's about meeting your mates, having a beer, talking about the different things, excitement of new players, excitement of, some special move that someone's done or whatever it might be, laughing at the misfortunes of your rival. That's kind of where football is. But when you're this bad, it's hard to take any positives from it at all. The real disappointing thing about all of this is that for all his faults, Ange Postecoglou wants to be the Tottenham manager. So for me, that was a real positive. A manager who actually wants to be your manager, as opposed to Conte, who couldn't wait to get out of the club, or Mourinho, who thought he was better than the club, and he probably is. And Conte probably wanted to get out of the club because of how he was treated anyway. So can't really knock him. But it was kind of like a bit of a breath of fresh air. Someone coming into the club who actually wanted to be there, whose philosophy was about playing good football, attacking football, and that kind of stuff. And it's the thing we all want. But at the same time as that, you want them to be able to shut up shop when they need to, change tactics when it's required, use the dark arts if you need to, rotate around, quality and youth, bring through players, all that kind of stuff. And it just feels like we are a million miles away from that. And I know there's a lot of people that blaming Ange Postecoglou's training methods and his way of playing that's creating all these injuries and all the rest of it. I don't buy it. I can't believe that in a multi-billion-pound industry where you've got the top people for all their different attributes, we'll just be looking at Ange's playbook like this and going, Ange says we need to make them run so far, so often, da da da. So therefore, that's what we'll do. Forget about sports science. Forget about medical. Forget about all the badges that you've taken as a coach and so on. That all goes out the window, and everyone just sticks to this little book that Ange Postecoglou created, the Book of Ange Ball Edition 2 of how to train players. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. I understand that Ange wants intensity and he wants effort and press and so on and so forth. But I can't remember the last time we did that either. I can't remember the last time I saw any of our players actually add intensity to the game to really push and to really close teams down and stop them from playing and so on. I've not seen any of that. So I think, well, what's creating all these injuries? And people talk about Celtic and talk about, what happened at Celtic and it was his training methods. Well, that's Celtic, that's Celtic. And I have had a comment from someone who was talking about the fact that Celtic's players before Postecoglou came were in a terrible state of unfitness. Is that a word? Or being unfit. And so they needed a lot of work and a lot of effort to get them to the level that they needed to be to actually play the type of football they needed to. So I kind of understand why he needed maybe to do that. I don't think that's the same thing happening. I think we're drawing conclusions, but I don't think that's the case because it's just an easy way of kind of pointing a finger to fit the narrative. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just rambling. I'm just rambling on about how I'm feeling because I'm just lost. I'm just lost with it all. The reality of this is that the club is just so deep. It's so deep, the problems, that it's just never. Getting to the bottom of what you need to change is where the problem lies. And I think Ange kind of picked up on that at the beginning. He kind of said he needs to change the culture of the club, all the way through. But that has to include the ownership and the board. They need to be changed. They need to change their attitude and so on. Because I get the idea that you want to bring through the next level of quality players, the next superstars. You want to get in and get them early and so on. And I don't think the idea was ever to play Bergvall and Gray and Mikey Moore and all these kinds of players to this level of football at this period in their career. I think they were supposed to gently learn about how it works and show their abilities and break in here and there and have one here and one there and maybe a few cup games and stuff like that to kind of bed them in and learn how to do it. And I think the injuries have kind of expedited that situation. Is that all down to bad luck though? Like, is that literally bad luck? Are we just really, really unlucky to have all these injuries? But I just can't see it being due to the way we play and due to the training. I just can't see it because I just can't see. I've not seen any of us do it, any of that intensity that would create that. So I'm lost. I'm lost with that. I do, I look at some of these players that are performing and performing well. Most of those that are performing well are the youngsters, the guys who you wouldn't really have wanted to play all this football. Out of all the senior players, they to me are the ones that look like they're letting you down more often than not. And I get what Ange's saying about them not being able to play this level of football all the time, every 3 days, Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, Thursday. I get it. Without kind of a level of rotation. But at the beginning of the season, he decided not to rotate, not to use some players that he maybe could have used to kind of give them that opportunity to rotate and not necessarily then get injured, potentially. Although they'd have probably got injured anyway. So it's just one of those things that's just really baffling to understand. And I think everybody is trying to reach a conclusion as to what's going on. And I think it's easy for us to kind of go, it's the manager and so on, and let's kind of change him and move on. And I'm not saying that's not the right answer. That may well be the right answer. It might be the right thing. It may be that he just isn't good enough. But I still struggle to find whether that's the case when I haven't seen him have a squad of players that he can actually rely on, that he can play consistently, that he can kind of rotate around. I haven't seen. So how can he prove that he does have the ability if he hasn't got the players to do it? And people talk about tactics and they say, oh, he can't change. But he has tried to change. He's been more reserved with the fullbacks. He's tried playing for the back. He's tried some different things to try to make it work. He's moved players around in different positions to try to overcome the scenario. So I don't think it's a case of not being able to. I think it's a case of having the ability to do that with what's available to you. So again, I think it's really, really harsh to lay all the blame on Ange Postecoglou's feet. We all know where the problem lies in the longer term with Daniel Levy and the board and what they should and shouldn't have done and so on. And this is, 24 years of neglect to kind of get us to a situation where we've just run ourselves into the ground and we've kind of hit an impasse. I think at this moment in time, this is kind of like a last chance for Daniel Levy. He's tried everything. He's tried everyone. I don't think there's a queue of managers looking to come and take these positions. I think they are in a situation now where they've started to realise they need to spend money. And I don't necessarily think that some of the players that we've bought are bad purchases. Archie Gray looks a good purchase. Bergvall looks a good purchase. Even Kinski, I know he had a bit of a difficult one against Villa, but he made some decent saves in that game for a 21-year-old keeper. That's really young. So I don't particularly think he's a bad player. Danso, who's just come in, I think he looks he looked decent, in patches. And obviously the brightness of Tell when he went up front kind of says, well, maybe, he was a sought after player. Lots of clubs wanted him. So I don't necessarily think all our purchases are bad. But when I look at players like Bissouma, who I think is just hit and miss, and Sarr, who's also just hit and miss all the time, you never know what he's gonna turn out like. That's a worry. And then you've got Son, who just doesn't seem to have any confidence in his play at all. And then you've got Benton Cole, who looked totally uninterested in that first half. It's starting to make you feel like that's where the problem lies. That some of these players that we've brought in previously are just not are the ones that are not good enough. Romero's always injured, and so is Maddison. Who's again drifted in and out of this game. One week it could be great, next week he can be like the invisible man, and you just can't rely on him. And that's just not good enough. It's just not good enough for players of that quality. So there's a real problem there in terms of deciding what's what's going wrong there. Is the recruitment team really, really poor, or are the players not up to what we expected them to be? I don't know. But what I do know is that we are now out of 2 cup competitions in quick succession. And of course, that buys us some time. It gives us a bit of a midweek break here and there before the European games start again. How long can we continue in the European games is the next question. Are the players going to be back fit enough and strong enough? Because when they're back, that's what we've got, right? So the 3 players that we brought in the winter window, that's it. That's all you can add to it, right? So then you look at it and go, okay, so are we going to have all the other players back, or are we going to lose any other players? So it's just such a conundrum. I'm just absolutely at my wit's end with it. If I'm, I just don't know where to go from here in terms of getting my enthusiasm back and my belief that something's going to change, that we're going to get better, that things are going to move on. Really, really struggling with it. Really, really struggling with it. And generally speaking, I've been a happy clapper, right? I like to support the team. I like to support the manager, whoever the manager is. I like to support the players, whoever they are. I want to give them, my support, because that's what being a supporter is supposed to be about. But they're not giving me anything back. They're not giving me any hope or any signs that it's kind of moving in the right direction. And I do feel, you really feel for Ange when he's getting bombarded with the same questions from the same media all the time, asking the same thing. Again, I don't know how often he can say what he needs to say that's going to get him a break from those guys, but because they're just kind of adding to the whole problem, stirring more people up and so on. And I think this video probably sounds like I am just here trying to defend Ange Postecoglou, and I'm not at all, because I'm at a loss as to what you're going to do when he goes, what comes in next, how long is that going to last, what else is going to change, what new players are we going to get, where's the hope, what different style are we going to play, are we going to go more, dogmatic and more Conte like, hitting people on the break, or where's the vision? Where's the vision? Because I just don't see it. So yeah, a very, very miserable Dorset Spur here, not able to give you any hope or bright future in it. I'm just really down in the dumps and miserable for the whole experience, to be honest. You turn on the football, you sit down, you're getting ready for it, and with it under 60 seconds, bosh, you're 1-0 down, and you are just being ripped apart because your midfield is missing. There's no one there. Everyone's just kind of following the ball, and it's just being passed around you. And okay, Kitski had a stinker. The ball's hit straight at him, and it's bounced off him and gone in the net. But then we did not get back into the game for the whole of that first half. And you get to the second half, and okay, we start to look a little bit fresher, a little bit stronger. You're pushing, it feels like it's coming, and then you concede a second goal after saving it off the line, and it's just comical. It's like Lauren Hardy, and from that point, you just knew it wouldn't matter how much we huffed and puffed, it was just not going to be enough, and we rally right at the very end, with a brilliantly taken goal by Tell. A great ball in from Kulu, really well taken by Tell, but it's just far too late, and you cannot do that. And I think even if we'd got a second goal and gone to extra time or whatever, I don't think we'd have got through it, because for me the players look like they just haven't got it in them. They haven't got the fight, the strength, the desire, the energy, and so we would have got out anyway. And I thought Villa were good. The one thing I would say, let's end on a positive. I thought the Tottenham fans were fantastic. Like the singing all the way through the game, even though you're behind after 57 seconds, the singing and the support for the team, I thought was fabulous. Daniel Levy out, ringing loud and clear across the stadium, across all the TV stations. Even the commentators having to acknowledge it. It's interesting because they try to avoid it, don't they? But yeah, so fair play to all of those fans that made that journey. And there were a few South Dorset Spurs boys who were up there, met up with the Punjabi Spurs boys as well, and some friends from around Tottenham that we meet up with regularly. So it was good to see the photos of all those guys getting together, because I guess that's pretty much what makes it bearable, right? Is meeting up with your mates, meeting up with your friends, people that you know, and people that you may have met on other occasions. You see fairly rarely. Kind of catching up with them in one go is always the pleasure, and probably the highlight of the day, rather than the actual football itself, because that was pretty dire. So listen, I'm going to have to apologise, because this wasn't the intention. When I started the video, my intention was to kind of review the game and say what the positives were and what the negatives were from it, and where we kind of go from here and so on. But even 24 hours later, I can't give you anything positive. I can't give you any light at the end of the tunnel. I can't give you any happy clap of views. I just can't. I just don't know where to go, and it's just one of those. I actually feel really broken by it all, almost comedy-esque, about where do we go from here. So anyway, 24 minutes of rambling, miserable old git. So apologies. I suspect I'll get about 5 views of this video. But listen, to the 5 of you that bother to watch it all the way to the end, thanks very much. I appreciate it, because it must be really miserable, really miserable watch. Hopefully tomorrow, when I do the live stream with the Shooting the Shit guys, we might be able to find some positives to talk about. Maybe not. But if you're around at 7:30 on Tuesday night, and you want to have a rant about the football, and or give us some feedback on what you think the problem is and how we can change it, or what do you think the future holds, then please do come along and join us in the comments and give us your view. But rather than ramble on and moan even more, I'm going to let you go. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'm just going to leave you with the ever faithful up the Spurs.